The following stories have been intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. It was supposed to be a routine camping trip. My wife, 2 kids, and I have been doing this every year for as long as I can remember. There's something special about camping in the fall. The leaves turning amber and gold, the crisp air, and the sounds of twigs crunching underfoot. But this year, something sinister found us. So we set up our camp spot, in our usual spot. It's in a clearing by a small stream. We were all excited to spend a few days disconnected from the world, just enjoying nature and each other's company. We roasted marshmallows, played board games, and went on hikes. Everything was perfect until the second night. I was awakened by a strange noise outside our tent. It sounded like something was dragging itself through the underbrush, and I assumed it was just a deer or a bear or some sort of animal, so I shook it off and I went back to sleep. But then, the noises continued. They grew louder and more persistent. I still tried to ignore them, but then they just kept getting closer and closer, and that's when I saw it. It was a grotesque creature, unlike anything I have ever seen before. Its skin was reflective, but molted and leathery. This creature's eyes were very dark. They were black circles that almost looked soulless. It had very long and skinny limbs. It had very sharp fingernails, and it stood at the entrance of our tent. Soulless, but it was staring at us with an intense, unblinking gaze. It was amazing how still it was. I tried to scream, but my voice caught in my throat. At this point, my wife and kids were awake now, huddled together in fear, as we all stared at this thing staring at us through the tent. The creature didn't move at all. It didn't make a sound. It just stared at us, as if it was studying us. The creature stood there for, it felt like, a few hours. The creature didn't attack us physically, but it was tormenting us, just standing there at the entrance of the tent. It felt like it was getting inside of our heads. We didn't want to move because we thought it would attack us. It had a very intimidating stature. We were trapped. We were helpless and alone in the middle of the woods with this monster. We couldn't run or fight back. We were at its mercy. It was like it was feeding off of our fear and desperation. It grew stronger with each passing moment as we sat there lifeless. But finally, as dawn began to break, the thing slowly retreated back into the woods, leaving us shaken and traumatized. As soon as the coast was clear, I unzipped the tent and I walked outside. I quickly hurried my family to pack our things up, and we left the campsite immediately, never looking back, never turning our necks to see what we left behind. This experience had changed us in ways that we fully couldn't even comprehend. On the way back, we didn't talk to each other, we didn't say anything, we were just scared. After this, we stopped going camping. We stopped seeking out the beauty of the nature. The memory of the creature that haunted us is a constant reminder of the darkness that lurks just beyond the edge of the Appalachian Mountains. My name is Samantha, and I decided to go on vacation because I needed some time off from work. Things were starting to get pretty stressful, so I looked online and I made a booking with a cabin. The cabin was located in the Appalachian Mountains, and I looked at it on the maps and it seemed like it was pretty secluded. I just wanted to do something spontaneous and just do something to get away, so I thought this would be the perfect idea. When I arrived to the cabin, I immediately noticed how quiet it was. All I could hear was the sound of the trees brushing against each other and nothing else. I walked into the cabin and I put my stuff down. I quickly noticed the old furniture that's surrounding me within this room of the cabin. I noticed my reflection in the mirror on the wall. It looked kind of strange when I looked in the reflection. My eyes looked a lot darker than usual, but I didn't really pay much mind to it. I thought I was just tired and stressed out, but just happy to finally be there. So I shrugged it off and I continued to unpack. Day slowly turned into night, and I started to unwind. I walked up to the front door and I locked it and I turned down the lights. I was starting to relax and finally get the decompression that I needed. I looked one more time up at the mirror, and the same thing happened. My eyes looked a lot darker than usual, but it was enough for me to notice. But, just like last time, I shrugged it off and I just went to bed. Not gonna lie, before I fell asleep, I kind of thought about how creepy the cabin was with its old furniture, but it was probably just me being me. I'm kind of an anxious person and I was out there by myself, but I know I needed to detach for a little bit, so I slowly saw myself falling asleep. Later that night, I woke up to a rather strange noise coming from the kitchen. I was reluctant to get out of bed to investigate, but I did anyway. I turned on a couple of the lamps, and I get up. I walk over towards the kitchen, and I look up at the mirror to see my reflection. Before I could complete the walk to the kitchen to investigate what the sound was, the mirror pulled my attention away. I noticed that my reflection was a little different this time. My reflection wasn't moving in sync with me. It almost looked like it was trying to reach out towards me. And I just thought to myself, maybe I'm just half asleep and I'm not seeing this correctly. So I rub my eyes, and I look up, and the reflection's gone. My heart drops, and I hear that sound in the kitchen again. My heart begins to race very quickly, and I can feel it pounding in my chest. I could feel the blood pulsing through my veins. And not even 10 seconds later, I blacked out. When I woke up, I was still in bed in the cabin. I quickly get up, and I quickly check the kitchen to ensure that nothing was there. It was daytime out, so the inside of the cabin looked a lot less threatening. I couldn't find anybody in there, and I checked the whole cabin. I didn't find anybody at all. I was trying to investigate where that noise came from, but I just couldn't put two and two together. I had no idea what could have possibly made that noise. I then began to check my stuff to ensure that nothing got stolen. Nope, everything was there. There wasn't a thing missing. So I walk outside to get some fresh air and just try to breathe and think about what just happened. I turn on my phone, and it takes a couple minutes to turn on. It's an older iPhone. I scroll through my phone, but I can't really do much because there's no service out here. And I turn it back off and I walk back inside the cabin. I begin to plan out what I want to do for the day, and I begin to look up as I'm walking back into the cabin. I thought that I would be seeing myself in the reflection of the mirror, but to my surprise, the mirror was gone. I scanned the immediate area, and I didn't see remnants of a mirror anywhere on the ground, so I had no idea where it could have gone. But as soon as I came to this realization, an ominous presence just filled the room. My stomach dropped, and I felt just threatened. I didn't know what I wanted to do anymore. I thought that I was being watched or somebody was messing with me. But to think about this, if you're in the middle of nowhere, with no reception, and you notice something like this, the last thing you want to do is stay there. I quickly run over to my bed, and I grab my stuff, and I run out to my car. I start my car up, and I leave. As I'm driving away from the cabin, I keep looking up at my mirror to expect somebody to come out of the cabin. Nobody came out of the cabin, but I just continued driving through the mountains to get back home. I didn't want anything to do with that cabin anymore. I don't really know what happened or explain how this happened, but all I know is you'll never catch me in the Appalachian Mountains ever again. Last year, I went on a hiking trip with my girlfriend to the Appalachian Mountains. As I'm powering through the Busby Trail, one of the trails of the mountain, I gasp for breath as I stumble across the mountain. Branches are scratching my face and tearing away at my clothes. My heart begins to pound on my chest as I power through this. Behind me, I could hear my girlfriend. I can hear her sprinting through the undergrowth of the bushes. With a lot of speed and anger, I could just feel her energy from where I was standing. So, this all started when we wanted to get away from the city and spend some time in nature. So that's why we planned this trip to the Appalachian Mountains. We have hiked before, and we definitely could tell that it's good for our relationship and it helps us keep healthy boundaries. On our previous trips, we would talk, laugh, and share stories under the starry sky, and we would enjoy the peaceful solitude of the wilderness. Something had changed this time. It was subtle at first, but the details just didn't add up. It was the way she moved, the way she spoke to me, and the way she just looked. She just looked very dark, with uncanny eyes that seemed to reflect something other than human emotion. I tried to brush it off and look forward to this trip, convincing myself I was just being paranoid. Maybe I was just stressed out. But as the day began to turn to night, the signs became more and more obvious. We go off the beaten path to set up a tent site. This is when my girlfriend had shifted. We laid back in the tent once it was all set up and we had the campfire going. She was very antisocial. It was nothing like the previous trips that we had made. She began to go to sleep and I walk outside to put the campfire out. But I think to myself that I'm just going to sit out by the campfire for a little bit and just spend some time alone while she sleeps. Give her some space. So I do that and about 40 minutes pass and I go back into the tent to settle in and go back to sleep. As I make my way back into the tent, I zip up the door behind me and I glance over at my girlfriend. She's sleeping face down. Not like a normal face down where you'd have your hips up to the side or your hands up above your head. She was just sleeping face down with her arms by her side. Never in my life have I ever seen my girlfriend do this. I don't know what gotten into her, but I just decided to let her sleep. She'll probably just sleep it off. We all have bad days. As I drift off to sleep, a couple hours pass and my girlfriend is shaking intensely. I look over and it seems that she's having a seizure. I quickly pull my phone out to try to call 911, but I notice that I don't have any service. So, thankfully, this trail is fairly close to a parking lot. The same parking lot that I parked in, so I figured I could rush over to the ranger station and go grab help. I'm sprinting towards the car. I'm crying on the way there, hoping I can get some emergency help to make sure my girlfriend is okay. As soon as I get to the parking lot, to my surprise, my car is gone. I have no idea where it is. I look around and there are no other cars parked in the parking lot. But I quickly notice headlights coming up the trail. I wave my hands in the air to get their attention and I run towards the car. The car slams on its brakes. I quickly notice that it's my car, and the person driving it is my girlfriend. She gets out of the car and starts crying. She says to me, "I was looking for you all day. I lost you at the trail. What happened?" I was extremely confused at this point, because I was literally just with my girlfriend. I do a triple take to ensure the person that just got out of this car is my girlfriend. And it is. How else would she have gotten the keys to my car? We only have 2 sets. I sit down in the car and I explain to her what happened. I tell her that whoever I was with literally looked just like her, wearing the same clothes as her and everything. She looks at me, and the expression on her face changes. Shortly after, the expression on my face changes to match the one on hers. We both cannot seem to understand if this is my real girlfriend, then who was that in the tent? We looked at each other and we didn't even want to find out. We drove towards the exit, and we made our way leaving the Appalachian Mountains, never to come back.